There comes a quiet moment in every human life when the world becomes too loud and the heart begins to feel invisible. We are surrounded by people, by voices, by expectations, yet inside we feel alone, tired, and disconnected from who we truly are. We give our time, our energy, our dreams to be accepted, to be loved, to be needed, and slowly, without realizing it, we lose ourselves in the crowd. We smile when we are hurting, we agree when we want to speak, and we stay when our spirit is begging us to leave. True freedom is not found in pleasing others, but in being loyal to your own soul. This is a lesson that many of us learn only after we have spent years exhausting ourselves trying to fit into the expectations of the world. We grow up being taught to be acceptable, to be agreeable, to be what others want us to be. Slowly, we begin to trade our authenticity for approval, our peace for applause, and our inner truth for the comfort of belonging. At first, it feels safe. It feels good to be liked, to be needed, to be praised. But over time, a quiet emptiness begins to form. Because deep inside, we know we are not living as who we truly are. Every human being carries a unique light, a personal calling that cannot be copied or replaced. Yet that light grows dim when we constantly bend ourselves to satisfy the desires of others. You were not born to live someone else's dream. You were born to walk your own path with dignity, courage, and honesty. When you silence your own voice to avoid disappointing people, you slowly begin to disappoint yourself. And there is no heavier burden than the regret of betraying your own soul. Being loyal to yourself does not mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop sacrificing your identity just to be accepted. It means you learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without hatred, and to choose your inner peace without apology. There will be moments when people do not understand your boundaries, when they accuse you of changing or becoming distant. But growth often looks like distance to those who benefited from your silence. Standing for yourself will never be comfortable, but it will always be right. When you begin to live in alignment with your true self, something powerful happens inside you. You no longer wake up feeling trapped in a role you never chose. You no longer feel the constant need to explain who you are. You become grounded, not because life becomes easier, but because you finally stop fighting against yourself. Your confidence grows quietly, not from praise, but from the deep knowing that you are living in truth. The world may try to pull you in 1,000 different directions, but your soul knows where you belong. In moments of doubt, when you feel torn between who you are and who others want you to be, return to that inner voice. It will never lie to you. It will guide you toward what feels right, not what looks impressive. It will lead you toward peace, not performance. True freedom is not loud. It is calm. It is the peace of not having to pretend. It is the strength of walking away from what drains you and moving toward what gives you life. When you remain loyal to your soul, you discover that no approval is more powerful than self-respect, and no love is more important than the love you give yourself. Detachment is not rejection. It is the courage to choose inner peace over outer approval. And this truth has the power to change the way we live, love, and see ourselves. Many people fear detachment because they believe it means abandoning others, becoming cold, or cutting off the world. But in reality, detachment is one of the most loving acts you can give yourself. It is the decision to stop allowing other people's opinions, moods, and expectations to control your emotional well-being. It is the moment you realize that your peace is more valuable than anyone's approval. So often we live as if our worth is decided by how much others like us, include us, or praise us. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay in places that hurt us because we are afraid of being alone. We tolerate disrespect because we fear being rejected. In this way, we slowly give away our power. We begin to live for applause instead of for truth. And the tragedy is not that people may fail to love us the way we want, but that we fail to love ourselves the way we deserve. Detachment is the quiet strength of stepping back and saying, I will not lose myself to keep you. It is the ability to care without clinging, to love without losing your identity, and to walk away without bitterness. When you detach, you are not punishing anyone. You are simply choosing not to suffer for the sake of being accepted. You are choosing not to beg for attention when your dignity is being ignored. This kind of courage does not make you weak, it makes you free. There will always be people who misunderstand your need for space. Some will say you have changed. Some will say you have become distant. But growth always looks like distance to those who are comfortable with your silence and your sacrifice. You are not here to shrink yourself so others can feel bigger. You are here to rise into your truth, even if that means walking alone for a while. When you stop chasing approval, something beautiful happens. You begin to hear yourself again. You begin to feel your own needs, your own dreams, your own limits. You stop measuring your worth by how much you are wanted and start measuring it by how much you respect yourself. This inner peace becomes a quiet strength that no one can take from you. Detachment does not close your heart. It protects it. It allows you to love from a place of wholeness instead of desperation. It allows you to give without emptying yourself. And in that space, you finally learn that you were never meant to be owned by anyone's expectations. You were meant to belong to yourself. When you step away from the noise of people, you finally give yourself the sacred gift of silence. And in that silence, the voice of your purpose begins to speak. We live in a world that is always talking, always demanding, always pulling us in different directions. Everyone has an opinion about who you should be, what you should do, how you should live, and what success should look like for you. If you listen to all of them, your own inner voice becomes lost in the crowd. You begin to confuse their dreams with your destiny and their fears with your limits. The noise of people is not only the sound of voices, it is the weight of expectations. It is the pressure to perform, to impress, to prove your worth. It is the constant comparison that tells you that you are behind, not enough, or moving too slowly. This noise can be so loud that you forget what you truly want. You wake up chasing goals that do not fulfill you and living a life that looks good to others but feels empty inside. And yet deep within you, there is a quiet whisper that knows exactly where you are meant to go. Purpose does not shout. It does not beg for attention. It waits patiently, like a steady hearer. Teat, until you are brave enough to listen. But you cannot hear it while you are surrounded by the opinions of everyone else. You must step back, even if only for a moment, from the crowd. You must create space to be alone with your thoughts, your dreams, and your fears. In that space, you will begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Solitude is not loneliness when it is chosen with intention. It is a return to yourself. It is where clarity is born. It is where you stop reacting to the world and start responding from your truth. When you allow yourself this quiet, you begin to see what truly matters. You recognize which relationships nourish your spirit and which ones drain it. You understand which paths are aligned with your heart and which ones you have been walking out of obligation. In the stillness, you also find courage. The courage to change direction. The courage to let go of what no longer fits. The courage to say, this is my life and I will live it with purpose. You realize that you do not need permission to follow your calling. You only need honesty with yourself. As you listen more deeply, your purpose becomes clearer. It is not something you have to chase. It is something you remember. It feels like coming home after a long journey. And once you hear it, you will never be satisfied with a life that is not true to it. Stepping away from the noise is not escaping the world. It is preparing yourself to walk in it with strength, action, and unshakable clarity. Self-respect begins the moment you stop begging for attention and start honoring your worth. And this is one of the most powerful turning points in a human life. For too long, many of us are taught to seek validation outside of ourselves. We are taught that being noticed means being valuable, that being chosen means being important, and that being praised means being enough. So we perform, we overgive, we lower our standards, we tolerate what hurts us just to avoid being ignored, and slowly, without realizing it, we trade our dignity for a few moments of attention. But attention is not love, and approval is not respect. You can be seen by many and still feel empty inside. You can be admired by the world and still feel invisible to yourself. True self-respect is born when you decide that your peace is more important than being liked, and your truth is more important than being included. It is the moment you look at yourself and say, I will no longer abandon me to keep someone else. When you stop begging for attention, you stop shrinking. You stop chasing people who do not see your value. You stop explaining your worth to those who are not willing to understand it. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced. You become rooted in who you are, not in how others react to you. This kind of strength is not loud, but it is unshakable. Honoring your worth means setting boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means leaving places where you are not respected, even if it means walking alone for a while. It means choosing what is healthy over what is familiar. Many people stay in situations that hurt them simply because they are afraid of being alone. But being alone with your dignity is far more powerful than being surrounded by people who make you feel small. When you begin to honor your worth, the way you love changes. You no longer give from emptiness. You no longer pour into people who do not pour back. You begin to recognize that your energy is precious and you protect it. You give because you want to, not because you are afraid of being left. This shift transforms your relationships. Those who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who only valued your sacrifices will fall away. And that is not loss, that is clarity. Self-respect teaches you that you do not need to beg for a seat at any table. You belong wherever you are valued. You do not need to prove your worth by suffering. You prove it by choosing yourself. When you honor who you are, you inspire others to do the same. You become an example of quiet strength, of dignity, of self-love. This is how you return to yourself, not by demanding the world to see you, but by seeing yourself first. Not by chasing validation, but by standing firmly in your own truth. And in that place, you will find a peace that no one can take away. Returning to yourself is the greatest act of leadership you will ever perform, because before you can guide the world, you must first be able to guide your own heart. Too many people try to lead while being lost inside. They follow the crowd, obey fear, and shape their choices around what will keep them accepted. This may create the appearance of strength, but it is not true leadership. True leadership begins when you are brave enough to stand in your own truth, even when no one else is standing with you. To return to yourself is to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. It is to reconnect with your values, your dreams, and your inner compass. In a society that constantly demands more, faster and louder, choosing to pause and listen to your soul is an act of quiet rebellion. Yet this rebellion is not against others, it is against the parts of you that have learned to live in fear, doubt, and self-betrayal. When you return to yourself, you stop leading your life from confusion and start leading it from clarity. A leader who knows themselves cannot be easily manipulated. Why do not chase approval? Because they are rooted in purpose. They do not fold under pressure because they understand their own worth. They move with integrity, not because it is easy, but because it is who they are. This is the power that is born when you return to yourself. You no longer react to the world, you respond from your truth. When you reconnect with who you truly are, your decisions become stronger. You begin to choose what aligns with your spirit, not what pleases the crowd. You learn to say yes when it feels right and no when it feels wrong, even if it disappoints others. This is not selfishness, it is self-leadership. And self-leadership is the foundation of every great change that has ever occurred in the world. As you lead yourself with honesty and courage, others will begin to feel it. They may not always agree with you, but they will sense your authenticity. People are drawn to those who are grounded in who they are. Your presence becomes a kind of light, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And in a world full of masks, realness is powerful. Returning to yourself also means forgiving yourself. It means letting go of the guilt of not being who others wanted you to be. It means releasing the shame of past mistakes and understanding that every step, even the painful ones, was part of your becoming. When you make peace with yourself, you lead with compassion instead of fear, with wisdom instead of ego. This is the greatest leadership of all. Not the power to control others, but the strength to know yourself. Not the ability to dominate, but the courage to be authentic. When you return to yourself, you step into a life that is guided by purpose, anchored in dignity, and filled with a quiet, unbreakable freedom.